Hi, third grade. For this project, we are going to continue to discuss the principle of balance, which we know from last project is when things are even on both sides. We're not going to talk about symmetrical balance when you had the exact same thing on the left and then it was repeated exactly the same on the right. We're going to talk about something called radial balance, when things are the same all the way around a circle. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. So the principle of balance, and then we're going to also talk about the element of texture. And you'll remember from kindergarten, first and second, that the element of texture is the way that something feels. It can be sharp, it can be slimy. Texture also could be the way that something looks like it might feel. So let's take a look at this. This asks texture because it's really, really bumpy and some parts of it are smooth. So I can feel that, and you guys can see that it might look like it feels bumpy or smooth. If we look back here, this picture that my younger students are doing, this has some texture, like a rubbing of texture. So you can see the texture is recorded when we rubbed a crayon over something that had texture. We're going to be actually talking about relief texture. So this is what we call a mosaic. And I started with a flat, smooth tile. And what I did was I added pieces of things, these are little pieces of other tile, to create a relief. So I built the texture right on top. So this has actual texture and so does this. But this one is the relief because it's coming out. So we're not going to be making exactly this, but we're going to be doing a combination of radial balance around and relief texture. And the materials we're going to use are things that you're definitely going to find in your house, except for maybe one thing. So we're going to use recycled food boxes. So hopefully it's not recycling day, as it is in my house. So when I went into my recycling, even though I knew I was going to be doing this project today, I didn't have anything to use. So this is what I did. I went into my cabinet and I picked out things that were already wrapped. And we eat healthier than this, guys, I promise. But I picked out things that are already wrapped and then I emptied the box. So I took all the Rice Krispie treats out of this so I could use the box. Ask your parents if you have to do this. Hopefully you can look in your recycling basket or your recycling box and then just find things. And these yogurts were already like, they're individual, so I just took them out. So if you don't have any, you do have a month to do the assignment, but try to plan on it and you can find creative solutions. You're gonna need some food boxes. And the reason we're using food boxes is because we're going to cut them up and they're thin. If you use really thick Amazon boxes, you're going to get hurt or break your scissors when you cut them. And if you find that you can't use your kid scissors and you need to use grown-up scissors, you must have an adult with you to do that. You cannot, I will not let you use these without an adult. And my video does not count as an adult. So you have to have adult permission to use big scissors and probably an adult present. So cardboard, scissors, and the last thing is going to be white glue. And this is the thing that you might not have. You will not be able to do this without a glue stick, and it needs to be firmly glued on, stuck on for next month's project. So Elmer's white glue or glue all will work great, or even like not a name brand version of white glue, that's fine. Glue stick won't work. Tacky glue will also work, okay? So if you don't have white glue, you need to send me an email and I will leave you some at White Rock School to pick up. Okay, so let's just talk really quickly about our glue strategies. You'll remember from kindergarten that if you open it up and you put it under your chin and you squeeze it and you feel a sea breeze, it's ready to go. If you don't, I don't want you to take your scissors and start cutting off the tips, okay? Grown-ups only. So if you don't feel that sea breeze, remember, scratch the top, scratch off the dried glue, close the top, scratch it again, open it again, and see if it's there. Do not open this part of the glue, okay? And remember, If you see that space in between the top cap and the bigger cap, it's open. If they're touching, it's closed. And this is all stuff that we've been doing since kindergarten, so you should know. So feel that sea breeze and then you're ready to go, okay? So food boxes, scissors, white glue, and watch my video and the slide, and you should be very, very set to do this assignment. Reach out to me if you need any help, as always. So let's take a look at what radial balance really is. For this project, we're going to review the principle of balance, which we have talked about last month and the month before, and we're also going to introduce the element of texture. And texture is something that we've gone over in kindergarten, first and second grade. So as these ideas are a review, we will be adding some more creativity to use them in new and different ways. So the type of balance we're going to focus on is called radial balance. And if you look at the picture to the right, you can see that radial means round like a circle. It's when things are the same on the top and the bottom as well as on the left and the right. So we see the yellow triangle, the big yellow triangle on the top, repeated on the bottom. It's also repeated on the left and the right. It could also mean something that's repeated all around the center. So the yellow and the small yellow and the small red triangles are repeated all around the center. So let's take a look. If I have a white circle in the center, I could repeat a line shape or color at the top, the bottom, the left, and the right. That is radial balance. I could also repeat something in all four corners, also radial balance. I could repeat something all around the center, also radial balance. As long as things are the same on the top and the bottom and the left and the right, you will be creating radial balance. Let's take a look at radial balance in the real world. On the left, we see a medieval rose window. This is something that is very commonly found in churches and especially in ancient medieval churches. We can see there's an image in the center of the window, and there's small circles with images repeated all around. There's larger shapes repeated all around. We see diamonds, semicircles, all repeated around the center. In the top middle, we see a painting by artist M.C. Escher, and all of the little creatures are repeated around the center in black and white, and the only thing that changes is the size. But if you were to fold the artwork in half from left to right, they would be exactly the same. And from top to bottom, again, they would be exactly the same. The flower is an example of radial balance in nature. If you can notice, everything is repeated around the center of the flower. And at the very bottom, we see an example of how radial balance is used in Eastern religions. And you can see that the artist is creating a beautiful sand painting, creating radial balance again. We're also going to talk about texture. Now, texture is the way that something feels. Texture can be hairy hair, smooth shell, or a rough rock. But texture can also be the way that something looks like it might feel. You can record a texture by actually gluing hair to your paper or by crumpling it up and making it rough. Or you could record a texture by making a texture rubbing, by putting something that has texture under your paper and rubbing a naked crayon over it to record the texture. You could print a texture, so you can take something that has a texture and put ink or paint on it and print it, and that could also be called stamping. Stamps are a texture. We are going to create relief textures. So here's two examples of relief textures. For this project, we're going to make a relief texture, which means it will be raised from a base and you will be able to feel it. So let's pause the video and get all of our materials and let's get started. Okay, So like I said, you're going to take your recycled food boxes, and what I would like you to do, remember you need recycled food boxes, white glue, and scissors. If you are going to use large grown-up scissors, you need to be working with a parent, or a parent needs to be aware. Okay, so what I did was I took the piece of box that had the largest side that I could cut off. So this is actually going to be a small piece since I didn't plan ahead, and that's okay because I can take a really good picture of it and it can look like a large piece of artwork. What a great virtual trick we have at our hands here. So I just cut out a nice base shape. It doesn't have to be a square, but I'm going to keep it simple and make it a square or a rectangle, but if you want to make it something different, that's awesome. I'd say that, you know, the size of your hand should be the very smallest that it is, or bigger. The bigger it is, probably the easier it is to fit everything on. Then what I did was I just took my other cardboard box, and the reason I used my other cardboard box was because it had this bright blue, and I wanted you to really be able to see my pieces in the video and in pictures, and I just cut a bunch of pieces. So when you cut your pieces, and you don't necessarily need to have a plan, but what I did was I cut pieces in groups of 4 because we know that radial balance is top, bottom, left, and right. So I did it in groups of 4, especially for like the large ones. And yes, it's great if they can be the same, but you can see in these 2 groups of shapes, none of mine are exactly the same. If you want to cut one, if you want to be meticulous, I will never stop you. If you want to cut out one and then take that piece and lay it on a piece of cardboard and trace it and cut it out 4 times, that is your choice, and I think that is a great choice. However, Mrs. TH did not choose to do that. So I just did 4 shapes that looked really close to each other and 4 shapes here. And then for the rest of my shapes, oh, and I also did 4 semicircles. Again, not exactly the same. Whoops. And I could trim them and make them look more the same. And then after I did that, I started to really make some smaller shapes. So I did a ton of these flower petal shapes. And that's going to be for my around. So remember, we have radial balance is top, bottom, left, and right, or all the way around the center. So I have those shapes for my around. And I have all of these triangle shapes for my around. And then I have all of my rectangle shapes for my around. Okay. And it probably would have been a good idea for me to get little cups and put them all in. But again, I didn't think of it. So if you think of it, or if you're doing this in 2 sessions, then that might be a good idea. So let's just say you started this and it's time for dinner. We have to clear off the table so the family can eat. Well, just throw them in these little cups. I just have little guacamole cups, all about recycling in my house. And that way you can kind of put them to the side and nobody can mess with it, hopefully, and you'll have it. Okay. So one shape that I think you should start with is a circle for the center. You could actually just take a pencil or a marker and draw a little dot. But it is important to start with something in the center so that you have somewhere to work from. So I'm going to use a circle, and it is important that we're not using paper. If you want to build this on a piece of cardstock, that's fine. But the objects, I think, should have some weight to them. You could also use some foam pieces, like foam stickers, and that would work too, and so would paper clips. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start building my radial design. So I am not gluing yet because I'm not really sure how it's going to work out. I'm just trimming my pieces because I really didn't know. I didn't measure. I could have measured, but I didn't. I didn't really know how it was going to work out. And then remember, so this is something in all 4 corners. if I do something north, top, bottom, north and south, top and bottom, left and right, or east and west. Okay, this is already kind of a cool radial design, right? I have these cool things, but I don't think they're gonna fit. Maybe I should put these instead of those. Maybe. I really kind of liked them. Worked pretty hard on them, so switch them out. So your plan can totally change as you work. Yeah, I kind of like that better. And then anything that you put on one side, you are not only going to repeat it on the opposite side, but you need to repeat it on the top and the bottom as well. So here I have my little triangles. And you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna snip this. So let's check. I have something in all four corners. I have something top, bottom, left, and right. I have triangles, 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, 2 on the left, 2 on the right. I am cooking with gas here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flower petal pieces and I'm going to go all around the center. So I'm loving this. Now, it does not matter what your colors are. So yes, I have little snap, crackle, and pops all over my picture, but that really doesn't matter because next week or next month, so not used to this weekly or monthly lesson here. Next month, we are going to make something with the texture of this. So this is going to be our stamp or our texture plate, and then we're going to do something to it next time. So get out your glue and put a good amount of glue on it so that it will stick but not squish all over the place, and glue everything down. Take a picture. If it's all the same color, get your camera really close so that I can really see it. Peek at the rubric to make sure you're going to get a great grade. Email me if you need help and I will set up a Google Meet with you. I would be happy to see you. Also, some of you have me come to your classes every day to cover your snack. So if I come to your class, you can always just ask me a question when I'm there. And I'll be happy to talk you through it. I won't necessarily be able to do it with you, but if we have a Google Meet, I will be able to do it with you. But if you can do this on your own, then that's great too. Remember, always pause the video and go back if you feel like you missed something or you need to work a little bit slower. I cannot wait to see your radial designs.